My Dandavat pranams to everybody here. Very grateful to have your good company. I'm here in Hungary. I was thinking today, unless anyone has any burning question. Oh, and also special welcome. We have two new persons in our group here, Pat and Shale, who are joining us for the first time. So we want to all extend a special welcome to you. Doya Moy has also joined us. Dandavat Doya Moy.
She's actually always here, but she's working on her computer.
Just
okay.
Yeah.
On the side of the monitor.
Okay, I'll remember that for next time.
No need.
Okay, so we just had I know Chinmoy requested we discuss Ramasamhita, but maybe next week we just had very special few days, the sannyas lila of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And so I'd like to say a few words about that. Pat is, I think, fairly new to our teaching, so we can just say, Lord, who is Lord Chaitanya? Lord Chaitanya is a non-different form of Lord Krishna. So we worship him in the same way that we worship Krishna, as the supreme fountainhead of all avatars and all manifestations of God, of divinity. And Lord Chaitanya, he is known as the most magnanimous form of the Lord. He came to this world especially to help, the soul, the lost souls of this world. Lord Krishna, his nature is to enjoy. He is known as being an enjoyer, and he is always playing and having a good time. He is the embodiment. He represents the acme of pleasure and enjoyment. Whereas Lord Chaitanya, by contrast, he is in the mood of distribution. So Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is Krishna under the influence of the mood of his devotee and trying to help the lost souls of this world, trying to give them connection with Krishna and trying to spread in particular, the holy name, the glories and the process of chanting the holy name. And another very significant point about Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is that Lord Krishna is God, and Lord Chaitanya is also God, but in the form of Lord Chaitanya, Krishna is demonstrating how to be a devotee of God. And so for that reason, in many ways, Lord Chaitanya is more helpful for us in our current stage, because we cannot imitate Lord Krishna. We cannot always follow the activities of Lord Krishna. But in the form of Lord Chaitanya, Krishna is in the mood of a devotee. He's following the practices and lifestyle of a devotee. And so his example is very helpful for us. In Bhagavad Gita, Lord Krishna gives many instructions for practitioners, concluding with his famous clarion call, Saradharmam Prichaja, Mamekam Sharanam Brajaham Tam Sarapapebhyo Mokshamishyami Mashucha. Give up everything and come to me. Surrender yourself to me. And then Lord Chaitanya, he is showing how that can be done. He is living that life of a devotee, showing the mood and the lifestyle of a devotee of Krishna. So in many ways, Lord Chaitanya, he is more valuable for us at this time. And so the significance and Lord Chaitanya, in his youth, he lived as a scholar in a town called Navadvip. He was born there, and he lived his youth as a renowned scholar. And then at a certain point, this desire began to arise within him, this mood of trying to save the souls of this world, to spread the glories of the holy name and divine love, Krishna Prema. And he realized that it was necessary to take up the renounced order of life, what we call sannyas. because he realized that if he continued as he was, people just saw him as another family man like everyone else, and persons would not take him so seriously. And so he realized that he needed to take the robes of a monk, of a renunciate, because everybody respects a monk, everyone respects a renunciate. And so he took that step. And there are descriptions in different, this is about 500 years ago, and there are descriptions by different biographers of the time. And we're also fortunate we've heard from our gurus, who have are not only, well acquainted with the literature surrounding this event, but they also have, a living realization and a living spiritual connection with these activities of the Lord. The Lord's activities, we don't like to think of them. It's sometimes difficult to describe them because they are not history. We don't think of them as history, and neither are they imaginary, but they are what we call lila, which means, it is a word that cannot really be properly translated, but something like, it is the Lord's play, or his pastime is how we usually translate it. And it is like an eternal current that is always going on in a cyclic way. So it is like there is this live stream of spiritual reality that is always flowing. And our spiritual teachers, our gurus, they have the capacity, they have the spiritual sensitivity to be able to tap into that live stream. And so, we will pick up a book to hear about something that happened 500 years ago, but for them, our gurus, they're tapping into a live stream. And so their description of these events is not just from what they've memorized from books or what they've heard from others, but what they've actually realized within their hearts and seen with their spiritual vision. So we've also heard descriptions of this Leela of the Lord, of his taking up the renounced order. And they are very, very potent, very captivating descriptions. So we can have some remembrance of that this evening. And so Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he was, in many ways there's a two-sided vision of this whole Leela of the Lord. One is that from our perspective, as lost souls of this world, it is a very joyful event. It is very happy for us that in order to help the souls of this world, the Lord took up the renounced order and set out to spread these divine teachings. So for us, it is a very happy thing. That is one perspective. However, from the perspective of those who were the companions of the Lord, who were the family and companions of the Lord, this was a very heartbreaking event. Our grandfather Guru Srila Sridhar Maharaj referred to it as a tragedy of separation. It was a tragedy for those who were close to him. And Lord Chaitanya, he was married he was 24 years old. He was married to a young, beautiful wife. And he was also taking care of his mother, who was a widow. His father had passed away. He was also renowned as a scholar in West Bengal. So this was a very dramatic step for him to take, to give all of that up and to live the austere life of a monk. And at such a young age, he's young and beautiful and brilliant. But anyhow, he came to this realization that it was necessary for him to take this step to fulfill his, this duty that he felt he had. And there are descriptions of the night before he left, he didn't tell everyone. He only told a few, like 4, 3, 4, 5 maximum of his associates, companions who were close to him. But, he didn't tell his mother, he didn't tell his wife, he didn't tell anybody else. But somehow the night before, there was some spontaneous attraction, and many of his companions, his friends, associates, they gathered at his house. And it was also some kind of a festival day, I think Lakshmi Puja. So there was some type of festival day, and there were some special preparations that were food preparations that were, and still to this date, are traditionally made and offered and honored on that day. So anyhow, there was this kind of spontaneous gathering at his home then the night before he left, and it was there was some type of sense in the hearts of his companions that he was going to go. So there was a great deal of intensity in their exchange, and it's described how they all offered him flower garlands, and then he took them off and offered them back to everyone who gave to him. And he told them at that time, always remember Krishna, like his last instructions. And he very earnestly appealed to them, always remember Krishna, always take Krishna's name, always serve Krishna, never forget him, in this very intense mood. And then after everyone left and everyone went to take rest for the night, then he rose from his bed like 2 a.m. in the morning, 1 a.m., the middle of the night, and he left. And his mother, there's a description from our grandfather Guru Srila Sridhar Maharaj of his mother. She had the strongest sense that her beloved son was leaving, and she was sitting by the door, like a stone figure. Srila Sridhar Maharaj said, and Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he came and he saw his mother there. He bowed to her, and without a word, he went on his way. And he was going to Katwa to take the sannyas order, the renounced order from one Keshava Bharati. And he had to cross the Ganga, the Ganges River, in order to get there. And this is January, right? The middle of January, which is the coldest time of year there. And so he had to swim across the Ganga at that time. And the cold water in the middle of the night, the coldest time of year. And Srila Sridhar Maharaj, he gave a very beautiful description how Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he didn't feel the colds. And he said for 2 reasons, because he said on one side, he was heated by his earnest desire to help the souls of this world. And there's a very nice talk of Srila Sridhar Maharaj where he's discussing this, and he says how his feeling was that everybody needs to be brought home. That we are all wandering, having forgotten about our wonderful family and our loving home. We are wandering like orphans in the street. And so Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's feeling was that everybody needs to be brought home. I want to bring everyone home to try to tell them, to bring them to their real wealth. And there's another comment Srila Sridhar Maharaj made also of how he was speaking about how how we are, in the name of civilization, we are actually living an animal existence, and how so many nations, so many groups, societies, they are warring against one another. They're in conflict with one another. And he said, Srila Sridhar Maharaj commented, that, jungle habits performed in an organized way, does that mean civilization? Actually, we are behaving, on the whole, human civilization is an extended form of animal life, but in a more sophisticated way. And we are calling that civilization. Civil means gentle, but this is not gentle behavior. So anyhow, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he was heated. This created this great heat on his body, in his divine form, that he very intensely desired to help the souls of this world. And then on the other side, he was, the other more esoteric aspect of the nature of Lord Chaitanya is that he is Krishna in the mood of his devotee Radharani, and in the mood of Radharani, in the mood of separation from Krishna. This is the deepest aspect of Lord Chaitanya's Leela, this mood of separation. So then on one side, Lord Chaitanya was heated by this intense desire to help the souls of this world. And on the other side, he was heated by this mood of vipralamba, separation from Krishna, in the mood of Srimati Radharani. So this created this heat, and he was not affected by the cold. And so he swam through the river in this cold, in this mood, and he reached Katwa and the ashram of this Keshava Bharati in the early hours of the morning, just as the sun was beginning to rise. And I'd like to read this excerpt because it is so beautiful. Let me see if I can find it. This is from a book, which has been prepared from the talks of Srila Sridhar Maharaj. And there's I want to find this because the description he gives of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu arriving to the ashram, it is very beautiful. Let me see if I can find it. Let's see. Coming up here. Here we are. He reached Katwa, where just on the banks of the Ganges, there was a sannyasi named Keshava Bharati. Nimai is the name of Lord Chaitanya before he took to the renounced order. Nimai went to him and asked him for sannyas. Keshava Bharati suddenly found that his ashram was full of luster. At first, it seemed as if the sun was rising before him. Then he saw that it was a bright person approaching. He rose from his seat and with strained eyes approached in wonder. What is this? He thought. Then he realized that the great devotee scholar Nimai Pandit had come. He appeared before him saying, I want to take sannyas from you, but Keshava Bharati could not accept Nimai's offer. I am charmed by your beauty and personality, he said, but you are so young, only 24 years old. What about your mother, your wife, and your guardians? Without consulting with them, I cannot venture to give you the robe of renunciation. In the meantime, as it was Makara Sankranti, a famous holiday, many people had come to take bath in the holy waters of the Ganges. So this day that Lord Chaitanya arrived to take sannyas, it coincided with this special festival day. And so he reached this ashram of this sannyasi, Keshava Bharati, which was on the banks of the Ganges. And because of this, it's traditional that on holy days, people will come and bathe in the holy rivers. So there were hundreds and hundreds of people there taking bath. And so there was this very grand scene as Lord Chaitanya requested sannyas. They gathered there and the rumor spread like fire. Nimai Pandit of Navadip has come to take sannyas. Many men flocked there until a huge crowd gathered. They all opposed Mahaprabhu's sannyas. Some of them raised their voices in protest. You, Keshava Bharati, we won't allow you to give sannyas to this young man. He has a family, his mother and wife. We won't allow it. If you give sannyas to this charming, young, beautiful boy, we will break down your ashram immediately. It cannot be. But Nimai Pandit kept pressing for sannyas. At last, Keshava Bharati asked him, so you are that Nimai Pandit about whom we have heard so much. Many big scholars came to conquer Navadip, the famous seat of learning, and you have defeated them all. Are you that Nimai Pandit? Yes, said Nimai. Keshava Bharati told him, I can give you sannyas, but you must take the permission of your mother. Otherwise, I won't. I can't do it. And this was the tradition in Vedic India, that if someone wanted to take sannyas, they had to have their mother's permission, which is very, very sweet thing. Nimai suddenly began running towards Navadip to ask permission, but Keshava Bharati thought, he has such a commanding personality, he can do anything. Nimai was called back. Keshava Bharati told him, with your most extraordinary personality, you can do anything. You will go there, charm your guardians, get permission and return. Nothing is impossible for you. The ordinary public was very much enraged, saying to Keshava Bharati, we can't allow you, Swamiji, to give sannyas to this young boy. It is impossible. If you do, then we shall smash your ashram. I was just planning to read a little bit, but this Srila Maharaj's description is so captivating, you can't stop. I'll just read a little more. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu began performing kirtan, chanting Hare Krishna and dancing madly. And the angry mob grew, sometimes creating a disturbance. In this way, the whole day passed with no decision. The night passed in Sankirtan. Like the way you hear Srila Maharaj expressing this, like, he's not just telling you something he read about or heard about, like he's seeing this, he's seeing this in front of him. It is so powerful, his description. So this whole crowd is there's this argument, for lack of a better word, taking place. This opposition is growing and there's this back and forth about giving him sannyas. Meanwhile, Mahaprabhu, he's happily beginning kirtan. He's in great ecstasy and the whole night is passing in kirtan. And the next day, Nimai's will prevailed, although there was still some opposition. Nityananda Prabhu, along with Nimai's maternal uncle Chandrasekhar, Mukunda Datta, and Jagadananda Pandit gradually arrived there. So these were a few of the persons that Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu told. And that afternoon, the sannyas function began. Chandrasekhar, Acharya, was asked to perform the ceremony on behalf of Nimai Pandit, who began to chant and dance and charm the audience. And then this verse, this very beautiful verse, this is Srila Sridhar Maharaj's original Sanskrit verse, included in the composition Prema Dhamma Deva Stocham, which is encapsulating this event very beautifully. Laksha Lochanashu Varsha Harsha Kesha Kartanam Koti Kanta Krishna Kirtanadya Dandadaranam Nyasi Vesha Sarvadesha Hahutasha Kataram Prema Dhamma Deva Meva Naumi Goda Sundaram. While showers of tears fell from the eyes of millions, he delighted in having his beautiful hair shaved away. Millions of voices sang the glories of Krishna as Sri Krishna Chaitanya accepted the staff of renunciation. From that time on, wherever he went, whoever saw him in the dress of a sannyasi cried in grief. I sing the glories of that beautiful golden Lord, the giver of divine love. The scene was at Katwa. 474 years ago, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu took sannyas. He was young and beautiful with a tall figure. He was only 24 and had beautiful curling hair. A barber was asked to shave him and approached him, but then withdrew. The barber could not venture to touch Nimai's body. He began to cry, "How can I remove such beautiful hair from such a beautiful head?" And so many others were also crying aloud, "What a horrible thing is being done here. Who is the creator of this sannyas? Who is so hard-hearted that he created the sannyas ashram, where one must give up all that is near and dear and go from door to door begging, leaving his own friends and relatives crying helplessly? What is this creation of the Supreme? Is it logical? Is it a happy thing? It is most cruel." Nimai Pandit was smiling. After the barber was ordered repeatedly, somehow he was forced to shave Nimai's head. At first, he could not venture to touch his hair, saying, "I can't touch him." But at last, he had to do the service of shaving the beautiful curling hair of the beautiful face of the 24-year-old genius boy. This line, I always remember this line. It's so powerful. At last, he had to do the service of shaving the beautiful curling hair of the beautiful face of the 24-year-old genius boy. He began with his shears. Some people could not stand the scene. Some even became mad. In the midst of the weeping, wailing, and crying of the threatening mob, it was done. Nimai Pandit was senseless. After being only half shaved, he stood up and began chanting in kirtan and dancing in ecstatic joy. After he was shaved, the barber promised, "I will never again shave anyone with his hand. I would rather live by begging. This is my last service as a barber." After this, that barber took up the occupation of a sweet maker. Ultimately, Nimai's appeals pacified the mob, and a little before noon, the inevitable gradually came. The sannyas function was performed. Okay, well, I'll stop the reading there. And I'll put a link here if anyone if anyone here hasn't already read this book. Highly recommended. And we're reading from the chapter, A Tragedy of Separation. I just put a link there. So then after the sannyas ceremony was completed, then Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he entered this mood of intense ecstasy and expressing the desire to go to Vrindavan, to run to Vrindavan, to engage exclusively in the service of Krishna, leaving everything else behind. However, his companions, they did not want him to leave Bengal. They did not want to allow him to go to Vrindavan. And so Nityananda in particular, he was a little tricky, and he always guided. And Lord Chaitanya, he was, in this state of divine intoxication, intoxicated by divine love. So it was easy to handle him and move him in the direction that was wanted. And so Nityananda, he was a little tricky like that. And sometimes he would, go ahead and ask someone, oh, if you see this sannyasi coming, you tell him, if he asks you which way is Vrindavan, you point him this way, So like this, he was a little tricky. And for 3 days, he was wandering in this state, trying to go to Vrindavan. We can also mention that in honor of this time in Navadvip, in our mat, in our temple, then it was the tradition every year at this time that for 3 days in respect of this time, then we observed a period of greater austerity. And this is something I feel is very special for us because, as I said, this is actually a very happy thing for us that the Lord took up the renounced order to help souls, lost souls like us. But for those who were, closely connected with the Lord, this is a very heartbreaking thing. It was a great tragedy, as we mentioned. And so Srila Sridhar Maharaj, this was his mood. This was something that was living very much in his heart and in the mood of a resident of Navadvip and an associate of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. He had this mood of sadness in his heart. And so in that mood, he requested, this was his instruction, his order in the mat, that for 3 days, special austerity would be observed. And that was, Srila Sridhar Maharaj, he established that tradition. And even in the time when I was there, and many of you, Chinmoy Prabhu, I'm sure, and others here also experienced that, So, we would have very simple breakfast. Lunch would be just rice and dal boiled together. Sorry, no. We'd have rice separate, and then dal and vegetables would be just boiled. So instead of having so many individual preparations, it was just dal and vegetables boiled together, and then rice, like that. And anything else in particular? Those are the particular points I'm remembering now. So it was Srila Sridhar Maharaj's desire that at that time there would be a more sober mood within the temple, and some austerity would be observed in honor of that time. So anyhow, finally, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he reached one bank of the Ganges River, and Nityananda tricked him, and Lord Chaitanya asked Nityananda, oh, where is the Jamuna River? And the Jamuna flows in Vrindavan, right? But Nityananda said, oh, the Jamuna is right here, but it was actually the Ganges. However, it is also because the Ganges and the Jamuna, they meet in Prayag. Then it is said that one side of the Ganges can be considered non-different from the Jamuna. So in some ways, Nityananda, there was some element of truth there. So Lord Chaitanya, he reached the bank of the Ganges thinking this is the Jamuna and Vrindavan. He's very happy. And meanwhile, Nityananda, he orchestrated this whole master plan, and Advaita Acharya arrived in a boat in order to take Lord Chaitanya with him to his house. And then a festival was held, a very joyful festival was held for about 12 days at Advaita Acharya's home. And Mother Shachi came. And then after that, by the request of Mother Shachi, Mahaprabhu, he selected Puri, Jagannath Puri, as his main base. So anyhow, we're fortunate to be able to have some remembrance of this special time and to reflect on the Lord's grace, his mercy, and the great opportunity that we have before us. And you know what really strikes me so much about this Leela is just this point that, you know, we are very fortunate to have this connection with our gurus, with our Guru Varga, who have this, you know, living relationship with the Lord and his Leelas. There was one time Gurudev actually shared that during the period of Lord Chaitanya wandering in trance, like in the time, you know, associated with that, Gurudev said that Srila Sridhar Maharaj, he would also be in this type of trance, and he said he was following it was like he was following Mahaprabhu. He was seeing Mahaprabhu in his inner eye, and like saying, oh, now he's reached here, now he's reached here. You know, so he was, you know, very deeply connected with this live stream Leela. Yeah, I think that's all. I mean, there's so much more that can be said, but maybe I'll pause here. Does anyone, oh, I see my link. I've been told the link I shared, somehow when I send links now, it goes privately instead of to everyone. Okay, there it is. So that's a link to the Golden Volcano of Divine Love. And the chapter, A Tragedy of Separation, is what we were reading from. And Chintamani saying, we have a question.
Hare Krishna, Dandavats.
Dandavad, dear Chintamani Devi.
My camera could work. We're here at Divine Grace. We have Parvati Devi here and Nika Devi's over there. I was just going to ask a question about, for a person who, you know, we're learning about this pastime for the first time of the hair being cut of Mahaprabhu. How does one not project that? Oh, that sounds like that mob of people are very materialistic. You know, they sound so materialistic. Like, you don't need to, you know, like, so what, a haircut, you know? Anyway, just like, on that.
Well, that's a nice angle. It's a nice point of discussion. Yeah, well, wait, I'm looking for you. I had you here.
Oh, our internet connection's not so good, so I turned the video off, but I can turn it back on if that gives.
Okay, it's okay. Just want to say hello to all of your friends there. Hello. So, well, there's two sides of this. This is actually quite an interesting point. You know, there's two sides to this, because there are different kinds of attachment. There's material attachment, and then there's also spiritual attachment. And it gets tricky because spiritual attachment can appear the same as material attachment, but intrinsically they're actually diametrically opposite. So I mean, I can't really comment on everyone who was in that crowd, but it's true, there may have been persons there from more of a standpoint of material attachment. You know, they don't want to see you know, somebody losing their beautiful hair, their beautiful clothes, and their lifestyle, et cetera, et cetera. That is certainly possible. However, on the other hand, there is also spiritual attachment, in which one will feel sadness to see that the Lord's, you know, they like to see the Lord's beauty. And it is not based on just material feeling for flesh and blood and bones, but it is a spiritual appreciation for spiritual beauty. So it is of a different category. So yes, from a materialistic standpoint, one may have great attachment to, the hair, the body. And I mean, I would say, I'm in that category. We are conditioned souls, so we place great importance on these things, but from a material standpoint. But for those who are like the eternal associates, the eternal companions and friends of the Lord, it is something different. Their attachment is based on something completely different. So, actually the sannyas, one thing our Gurudev mentioned was how, like, not only our Gurudev, but it is significant for our line of gurus that we always worship Lord Chaitanya. And if you look at our altars, if you look at the deities that we worship of Lord Chaitanya, then we never worship him after he took sannyas. And all of the deities worshipped in all of our temples, he's always worshipped with his beautiful curling hair, and with his beautiful dress, because it is painful for his devotees to see him in the austere dress of a sannyasi, and with a shaved head. So yeah, there's two sides to that. There's more I want to say on that, but I feel like it's slipping out of my head right now. I mean, it's actually a very deep topic. There's a lot that could be said. But does that help what I just said?
Yeah, definitely. What do you think, Parvati Devi?
Yes, it's interesting.
Okay.
Like,
Yeah. I mean, like in our position, we incorporate elements of austerity and renunciation, and that's in consideration of our material attachment. Excuse me. Because we suffer from the disease of material attachment, then we do adopt some degree of renunciation. So like I'm wearing this saffron cloth, and I mean that's a whole other discussion. I mean, there's a lot more that can be said about that, but because of the fact that we are conditioned souls. By conditioned, I mean that we're not exhibiting our true spiritual nature, that we are under the influence of an artificial agent, i.e. the material energy. So we're not expressing our true natures as spiritual souls. We are conditioned by the material environment. And so because of that, because we're suffering from this disease, then we do adopt some degree of renunciation and austerity in our practicing lives, as a reaction to attachment to the material energy. However, for someone who's already on the platform of pure spiritual identity, pure spiritual identification, freedom from all negative material attachment, then whatever attachment they do have, it's based on a higher feeling. And those persons, they don't need to adopt any form of renunciation because they're free from any material attachment. They don't need to give up attachment because they don't have any material attachment in the first place. So therefore, their expression, any expression of appreciation and attachment they do have, it's always in connection with something spiritual and higher. I don't know if that's making sense. Am I coherent here?
Yeah.
is this like the beauty as a key to unlock the divine connection? Like somehow we want to give the most beautiful to the Lord. We build like beautiful temples, and this is also a link to our connection, even though it's still materialistic, but like a vehicle towards the divine.
Wait, can you say that again?
Here, we'll bring the mic closer.
Sorry,
Okay.
my voice is not there. No, I was saying that what I felt from your answer was something about beauty as a key to unlock the divine connection. So in many ways, when we relate to the divine, we want to offer beautiful things to the divine, or if we see the divine in a beautiful form, somehow it creates a mood inside of us that maybe is a key to feed that connection to the divine, to our capacity to conceptualize the divine. So would that be
Well,
related to what?
I mean, yeah, what you're saying, I think that I'll say yes to all of that. It's not exactly the point I was making. But yes, what you're saying is right. But okay, let me present myself better. That we are okay. We are not thinking of ourselves as devotees of Krishna or Mahaprabhu. We are thinking that our gurus are devotees of Krishna and Mahaprabhu, and we are honoring their mood. You know, so for example, if I look at a deity of Krishna or Mahaprabhu, I may feel, oh, this deity is so beautiful, the clothes are so beautiful, the hair is so beautiful. And of course, that appreciation has some value. But I also know that material, that appreciation, it's not, in the big picture of things, it's not worth that much. Why? Because I have material eyes, I have material senses, I have material attachment. So there's a degree of how much I'm able to appreciate spiritual reality. So my appreciation of the deity is very little. So I don't put so much importance on that. And I'm not even able to see the real form of the deity. The deity has a spiritual form, but I have material eyes, so I cannot see the spiritual form of the deity. So my appreciation is based on something I'm seeing with my material eyes. However, my gurus, they have spiritual vision. They have a real spiritual and heart connection and relationship with the deity, with the Lord. And so we are actually honoring their mood, you know, in the way that we are practicing and worshiping. And many things, it's not based on our own feeling, but we are honoring the feeling and mood of those who have real feelings, you know, those who have real love, those who have true vision. So it is like our gurus, they like to see in their in their mood of attachment to the Lord, which is pure and spiritual, they like to see him in a particular way. And so we are honoring that. We are honoring their mood. You know, for those, you know, as we progress, you know, we will, I think I was discussing this last week, but you know, the deeper that we go into Krishna consciousness, the more we will feel we are so many times removed from the Lord himself. You know, in the beginning, we may feel like it's me and Krishna, me and Mahaprabhu. But as we go deeper, we will see, oh, and this great soul is here, and this great soul is here. And I'm approaching the Lord through the lens of their mood and their heart and their realizations. And the example of a telescope has been given, you know, that, you know, normally we think if there's something that's between me and something else, it's an obstruction. You know, like, so in other words, like the Lord is here, the Lord is there, and I'm here. And if somebody else gets in the middle, then they're blocking my way, right? This is one way of seeing it. So the example of a telescope is very helpful, because with the telescope, you have so many lenses, but those lenses, they're not obstructing your vision. They're actually enhancing your vision. they're actually, you can see what is very far away can be brought very close through the agency of a lens. So in the same way, our gurus, the great souls on the path, they are like these lenses that are bringing the Lord closer to us. So we are not approaching the Lord directly thinking I can have a direct relationship, but I'm approaching in this careful way, through the mood of those who have, already a deep connection with the Lord. It's a very complicated topic. And I mean, I also, the points you made were all correct also. I mean, that's kind of like another topic. I mean, like yes, because we like beauty, then it's helpful for us to offer beauty, and it is natural that we will want to offer the best of what we have. So naturally we are offering beauty, and we're also creating beautiful environments because that is something attractive for us. But then on the other hand, those who are living 100% in the spiritual environment, in the spiritual plane, they don't need anything, like the 6 Goswamis, they lived under trees. They lived under trees in Vrindavan, very simple life, often, creating a very beautiful temple environment. It's for people who need that, like us, we need that. This is one reason why in our distribution, our gurus have actually put emphasis on making, on presenting things in an attractive and dignified way for us, actually. Actually, the only thing that the Lord needs is love. And anything can actually be the medium of that. One need only offer flowers or water and nothing else. The real medium is love. Anyway, this is a big conversation. We can go in many. There's a very broad scope here. We can go in many different avenues here. Let me think if there's anything else in particular I want to say on that. Yeah, I mean, I think the main point that I want to make in regards to this is that we don't have, we're not thinking that we have the capacity to have real perception of spiritual beauty at present. We don't, like that. We don't have the capacity at present because we're covered by the material energy. We don't have the eyes to see real spiritual beauty. However, our gurus, they have those eyes. And so we are approaching through them and honoring their vision. And so in line with that, the deity that we worship on the altar is the form of Lord Chaitanya that they liked. They like to, they have a relationship with the Lord, and they have spiritual attachment to this form of the Lord. And so we're worshiping that form. If they said they liked the sannyas form of the Lord, then we would worship that form, But this is what is meaningful to them. And for them, it is heartbreaking to see the sannyas form, the austere, renounced aspect of Lord Chaitanya. And so we are always worshiping the form of the Lord with his curling hair and his beautiful dress, etc., etc. There's one expression of Bhakti Vinod Thakur. I can never remember the Bengali. Ami chai gor chanje loite maya pode Yatai Kaishora Vesh Chika Chavasane Yatai Ishodyane. I can't remember the rest of it, but it's a very like poignant expression where Bhaktivinoda Thakur, he's envisioning himself as one of the members of, because there was this very dramatic moment when Lord Chaitanya, he took sannyas, right? And he left. And normally sannyasis, they cannot come back to their hometown, but they're allowed to come back once. So 5 years later, we've just described the sannyas Leela of Lord Chaitanya. Oh, thank you, Chinmoy Prabhu. Thank you very much. Yeah, that's it. Thank you so much. Oh, he's just shared it with me. Can you share that with the group, with everyone? So 5 years later, Lord Chaitanya, he comes back to Navadvip. And it's very interesting. There's so many interesting angles on this Leela, because as we mentioned, Lord Chaitanya, he wasn't appreciated properly. That was why he had to take to the renounced order, because people saw him, oh, he's just a family man, he's like one of us. So people didn't in fact, some people criticized him. So the atmosphere was not very favorable in Navadvip for him. So he had to leave. Then 5 years passed by. He's traveled all over India. He's become this like famous preacher, sannyasi. And then he 5 years later, he returned after becoming like famous out in India. He returns to Navadvip, and now the mood has completely changed. Now he's like a superstar returning to his hometown. You know, he left as a nobody, you know, got big in Hollywood, and now he's coming back as a star, and everybody's mad to see him. So it was like thousands of people clamoring to get a glimpse of him, and he had to flee from the crowds because they were so great. There's descriptions of him. There's descriptions of the Ganges becoming full of people standing, trying to get a glimpse of him. People digging up big holes in the ground to try to get his holy foot dust. People climbing trees to try to get a glimpse of him. And so at one point, the crowd became so great that he climbed onto a rooftop of a devotee's house. So to get away from the crowds and to enable everybody to be able to see him from the higher point. And so Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur, he's written this poem where he's envisioning himself as a member of that crowd and expressing this heartbreaking feeling, you know, I don't like to see this form. And Chinmoy Prabhu has kindly shared this verse. Ami chai gor chandre loite maya pode yatai kaishor ve shriangete spode yatai chachar kes chika chavasane isho jana lila kode bhakta jana sane. I want to bring Gaur Chandra back to Mayapur, where his youthful dress shines on his divine form, where with his wavy hair and dhoti tucked in 3 places, he performs pastimes at Ishodhyan with his devotees. Okay, well, Parvati, does that offer any more illumination, or have I gone in too many directions?
Yes, thank you so much. No, thank you.
Okay.
See that it's a broad subject, but I really
Yeah.
sir.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of these things, they're not really things I can just like explain right here and now, but like over the passage of time, you know, our understanding will develop. The teachings that our gurus have given us are so refined. You know, we've really been given the most refined conclusions of spiritual truth. So there were so many subtle points that, you know, they cannot be grasped immediately, but, you know, over time and repeated hearing, then some, you know, sensitivity will develop, will gradually, you know, grow and develop.
Thank you so much. Yes, holding
Can
layer at a time.
can I add a tiny little thing maybe that might be floating in the ether? It could be
Please,
my own thing, but I
please.
was thinking also one thing that could be explained, at least from what I perceived, that at that plane where they're connected with Mahaprabhu, their love is completely for him. And so they don't want to see him not enjoying. They don't want to see him being a sannyasi, because the life of a sannyasi is not pleasant, and they want everything joyful and pleasant and beautiful. They want him to have everything. And when they're seeing him give up everything, that's breaking their heart, because they love him more than they love themselves.
Very nice, very nice. There's
I don't know
no
if that was mentioned.
No, that's a very nice point. That's a very nice point. Yes. There, you know, because normally our love and attachment is polluted to some degree with our own desires and needs. But their attachment is on a completely selfless foundation. There's no tinge of selfishness there. So yes, that is a very valuable point. Does anyone else want to add anything? Maybe Chinmoy Prabhu or Braja Mohini Didi. Let's see. Okay, a few other devotees. We have such a nice group today. I don't know what happened. I feel like I hit the lottery. Subhasini Didi's also joined us from Ireland. Dandavat, Dandavat Didi. And
also joined, I think. Pat.
Yes, we exchanged greetings with Pat. Pat was here from the very beginning. Yes.
Okay, that's nice. Yeah, I was a bit late. Yeah, that's good. Okay.
And also Narayani is with us today. That's really cool. Dandavat Narayani. Great to have you with us.
Jai Dandavat. Didi, thank you for all. Very special.
Dandavat.
It's a poesia. Your class is poet. Very nice poesia, Didi.
Yeah, it was a really nice
special
question.
Class. Thank you very much.
Before we end, I just want to share one more thing. We had a really nice reading yesterday from Divine Guidance, which is such a special book. I mean, there's so many amazing quotes there of Gurudev's. But there's this one. Let me do we have that book in our library here? I'd like to know. It's not in our library. Have to get it up there. But Divine Guidance, we do have it as a PDF. But anyway, this really nice explanation of Gurudev's, our Gurudev Srila Govinda Maharaj, about the nature of the ahankara, the false ego. And he was saying how actually just translating ahankara as ego is not sufficient. And he was saying that actually ahankara is a whole world. And he explained, he described it very nicely as it's an expanding world. It is an expanding world, which is a very nice point, because ego, the false ego, it's something that can insinuate itself into anything and everything. The false ego, it can attack us from any point. It can be, I'm the king of the castle. I'm so great. I have so many persons under me. It can also be, I'm the most humble person. I'm the person cleaning the toilets. I'm so humble. Nobody's more humble than me. Oh, thank you. Yes, Chinwaipu was sharing you. Can you put that whole paragraph there? And then the other point Gurudev made there because ahankara has two, the meaning of, there's like two main points about ahankara. One is the conception of I as an independent entity and the doer. And then the other aspect, the other principal aspect is mine. Because, you know, because I am doing, then the results of that are mine. They belong to me. So Gurudev is saying here, ahankara means a particular kind of world. And Chinmoy shared the quote in our chat. A whole world with so many things within it. My mother, my father, my brother, my wife, my house, my garden, my everything. And I can do this, I can do that. I have done it. And before me, my father did it. The ahankara world is a very big world. It is not only ego. To say only ego is not sufficient, but it is an expanding world. And so then this, I just, to wrap this up, ahankara, that it's actually, the root of it is aham koro, which means, these two sounds, it means aham is I, koro is do. So I do. This is the root meaning of the very word ahankara. No, I actually, we, you know, it is mentioned that all that we can, the only capacity the jiva soul has is to will for something to happen. The three properties of the souls are willing. This is something our Gurudev mentioned many times. Willing, feeling, and thinking. These are the three properties of the souls. Willing, feeling, and thinking. So we are not able to perform any action in this world. We can only will it to happen. And we can understand that in a very mundane way. We can decide to do many things, but unless the environment is cooperating with that, we're not able to, even to pick up a glass of water. There's so many factors that are allowing that to take place. The brain has to be wired properly, the nervous system, the muscles, et cetera, et cetera. There's the force of gravity, so there's so many other elements in the environment that have to cooperate and allow for any action to take place. If I plant a seed in the ground and some fruit grows from that, then I may say, oh, these are my apples, or these are my tomatoes. But all I did was put a seed in the ground. And then, did I create the sun? Did I create the moon, the wind, the rain, the soil, the insects who are helping the fertilization, et cetera, et cetera? I didn't do any of that. Those are all forces beyond my control. All I did was put a seed in the ground. Am I the force of life that is causing that seed to germinate and grow into a plant? No, not at all. And to this day, scientists aren't able to replicate that. We can also add. So this is a very insidious material. It's actually a material energy that causes us to think like that, to think, I am doing this, and therefore this is mine. So and this feeling is so subtle and so insidious, and is expanding, as Gurudev says so nicely, and it comes, in so many different directions, in so many different ways. So just wanted to share that. It's such a nice, I haven't, this explanation Gurudev gives, I haven't heard it like that anywhere else. And it's just so perfect and so helpful. Very nice. Okay, well, maybe I'll stop there for today. So nice to have all of your good company. Does anyone want to?
Yeah. Do you know Purnananda Prabhu? I got to talk to him. Purnananda. Gurudev had so much affection for Purnananda. He did so much for mission. So I've been texting him. He lives in Vrindavan. One time Gurudev was telling his stories. Him and I was there also in early 80s. So Purnananda went somewhere, and Gurudev so loving. He was like a blind man. Purnananda. We were looking for him. Actually, he built all the guest houses, a lot of temples. Gurudev glorified him very much. Many years he was, I don't know if you met him ever, but
Yes, we all know Purnananda.
yeah.
Prabhu.
I got to talk to him today, this morning.
Uh-huh.
I see he's in Vrindavan,
Yeah, he did so much service for.
So much service, Gurudev, I met him briefly, but he was so helpful, so kind to all the devotees, all the Vaishnavas.
Okay, well,
thank you so much.
Thank you for sharing, Prabhu. Does anyone else have anything to add or ask or anything at all, or should we conclude?
So how to avoid that ego, especially in America? It's they inflate. Everything inflates your ego here.
There's Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur's song, Atma Samarpane Gela Abhiman. I surrendered myself to you. Gela Abhiman. Gela means went away. Abhiman is another word for false ego. So Atma Samarpan, I offered Atma Arpana, I offered myself to you. And what happened? My ego went away. my false ego went away. This is Bhaktivinoda Thakur is giving us this in a very simple and sweet and concise way. To the degree that we can surrender, offer ourselves, then this will leave us behind. The fire of self-sacrifice, Srila Maharaj talks about that. The ego will be burned in the fire of self-sacrifice. Yeah. Jai Srila Bhakti Sundar Govinda Dev Goswami Maharaj ki Jai, Vaishnava Vrinda ki Jai, Shri Harinam Sankirtan ki Jai, Nitai Gaur Premanande.